Okay, welcome to another episode of Panakal Podcast for Geeks, the show with good friends hanging out, talking about the things we all love. My guests today are Brian Colin, Jason Engle, and Andrew Sides, who's always my co-host. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm tired, man. So today's episode,
Yes.
I was hoping to do an episode about Gen Con when we were all done with that, and then that got away from me. And then I just did Origins, and you guys didn't show up. So I was all by myself. So we're going to do a recap of both shows, I guess. Yeah, I guess we can just talk about Gen Con first since we're all there.
I would love to hear like all your experiences with it. Were you all were in the art showcase?
So I was in the art show, and then these two are in the vendor.
Oh, vendor. Okay, This is great. This is interesting perspectives then. So how is it with the vendor side? Because Alan's talked about the artist showcase a little bit, I think, with me privately.
We can let these guys
Jason, do you want to start? You've had the same spot for a number of years, right?
I have. I started doing the vendor hall booths a few years back and realized pretty fast you have a lot more space, when you're in the vendor hall, because the art show booths are like, is it a full 8-foot table?
It's supposed to be
it's like about a 3-foot table when you're there. It's like
it gets smaller and smaller as your stuff shows up.
Yep.
It's like airline seats; they keep feeling smaller every year. They can get any smaller, and then they somehow get smaller. But the vendor hall booths are just a lot more room to spread out. So I realized I liked it a lot better really fast, and I just kept doing it. And plus, the art show used to have the like art show tax, where they would kind of take a certain percentage off the top to handle all your taxes and
so they don't
really.
So the art show used to do two things that I remember. One was the tax, and the other one was I heard, I didn't have to deal with this by the time I got there, but I heard if you sold an item, you had to give somebody a ticket and they had to pay for it.
Yeah, it was basically like a ticket system where it meant that instead of everyone standing in very small lines at every artist's table, instead they all stood in the same big lines, which meant a lot of people would just be like, I've been standing here for an hour. I don't need this piece of art this badly, and I'm just and so you lose out on a lot of sales, and then you didn't get to keep all the money at the end. So it was kind of an imperfect solution. It's still one of the best art shows in the world as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's amazing. They give you panels to set up your work. The people that run it are awesome at it. I mean, it's really, really it's a great art show, and I highly recommend it. But if you want to do a bigger setup and really sort of take on the show and do the kind of art display that it takes to really sort of stand out, then you can't do it there at art show. And I highly recommend. Anyway, the vendor hall area was great this year. I was absolutely astounded for having maybe half the foot traffic that Gen Con has in a normal year. So anyway, the vendor hall, usually on Saturday especially, it's so crowded that people are kind of like, doing the cattle drive through the main hall.
Right.
Right.
All the hallways are just full of people just shouldering their way through. And this year there was never a time where that was really the case. It was always, pretty sparse in terms of the actual, just crowd moving around the floor. But despite that, the people that were there were just as happy to be there as we were. So they were, they were happy to spend money. They were happy to, see all the artists they haven't seen in a while and all the games that they've been wanting to try. I mean, it was half the people, but twice the energy, so it really, it sort of, it was my most profitable Gen Con that I've ever done. And it's, like I said, it's half the size that it is usually, which is, I mean, the numbers on that make absolutely no sense. So,
no. I mean, it was my most profitable as well, but my setup was different this year than previous years.
I mean, you got a bigger booth this year for sure.
Was it good this time?
So in 2019 was my first time as a vendor because I didn't get juried into the art show that year. But I only had a 10 by 10 in the vendor in 2019. And this year I was lucky enough to expand to a 10 by 20. And that made a huge difference. Just the presence alone made it easier for people to think that I was bigger than I am.
I mean, you said, when we got there, he was like, "Oh, I got a 10 by 20 somehow. I don't know what I'm going to do." And then after he set up, I was like, it looks like he planned for it, right? It didn't even look like he completely got lucky.
I definitely brought more product than I ever would have needed had I only had a 10 by 10.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you guys saw in the art show, like this. So here's the thing. Every year in the art show, I have to figure out how to set everything up so I can get to it fast, because you only have roughly, I think it's a 6 or 8 foot table, and then you have enough, people can't see behind the table. You only have about 2.5 feet back there. So like everything's usually stacked on one side, and I have to either go around the table to get to stuff or get it right there next to me. I can't move to the right of that table. Like I stand on one side, I come out of that same side to talk to people, and then I go right. I literally have about 1.5 feet of space by the time I'm done filling it with stuff. But this year was nice because they had the pods, because so many artists dropped out, and we were able to put, a lot of us were able to push into the aisle. So I don't know if you saw my table. So I had I got rid of their table and I put my own table down, which is usually a big no-no. You have to use their table. It's union rules or something. But I swapped out the table. I gave it to our friend David, actually, Laraka. He said, I need an extra table, so I gave it to him. And then I quickly covered it with tablecloth. And then I put an extra table on the side. And the only person that really noticed was Barbara, because she apparently has a visual. She knows the size of that table just by looking at it, right? And she was like, is that your own table? And I'm just like, how the F? You know, like... like,
well, part of setting it up, I'm sure she like... everything's supposed to look uniform and like it all belongs as part of the art show. Right.
So, but it was nice this year because I actually have breathing room. I can move from one side of my booth to the other, so I can interact with people on both sides of the table. And, it was, I think the only stressful part for me on that show is always great for me. It's never like, I usually just roll in from here. They provide the pro panels, which is great. And there's like, the stress is just getting there and setting up. But the only stress I had was after I set up my lights and my metal, they were like, yeah, we think you're in the wrong booth. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
And apparently what happened was I was in the right booth. The number was assigned to me correctly. So I've set up where I was supposed to set up, except when Fern put our booth down, they rotated it wrong. So technically, if you saw Alex Dos Diaz was behind me, I was supposed to be in Alex's booth. Alex was supposed to either be to my right or in my booth. And then I forget the other guy's name, Mark. He was supposed to be, we were all in reverse order. We were all spun. And
did you all care though? Like
Alex, the other two artists were super chill about it. They were like, what are you going to do? We're already set. I found out after I was about 85% set up. And I was like, can we pick it up and rotate it? Because it was like a weird Y-shaped, look almost like a flux capacitor, right, of pro panels. I was like, if we can lift this all up and rotate it, I'm all about it. I'll shine wherever you put me. But she was like, no, we can't do that. And I was like, well, if you're suggesting I take everything down, I'm not going to do that. I was like, if I have to take everything down, I'm just going to pack up and go home, because that's super stressful. Brian and I were there since like Tuesday.
Yep.
Or, I'm like, I've been here for 2 days already setting up. So,
I mean, if you're sharing the space with two other artists and they're both okay with it, like, does it matter?
I mean, I think there was no choice. And like, if they were just Alex, I think we all did. So here's the thing. We all did so well at that show. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. Right. Like, everyone in the vendor side, every artist I spoke to in the art show said this was their best year at Gen Con. They had every one of us had our best Thursday ever. So, and now, I think Andrew and I are talking about this a little bit. I can't, part of me wants to hope it's because the fans are there and they like your work and they're there buying everything. But part of me feels also like it's a pandemic year. So people are like, there's a show, let's go spend money,
Right. And especially if they haven't been spending much for such a long time.
Yeah.
They have more that they're able to spend, and there were less people, and I mean there were way less vendors, especially the larger companies that usually have a lot of releases, and that with all of the product games that are still like in transit because of all the logistical issues that have been going on over the past year. I mean, there's a lot less stuff for people to buy.
Yep. Now, one question I have is for Gen Con. Excuse me, within the vendor side, do you have to set up a certain way, or you can basically set up to sell whatever art you want? Or is it because you're a vendor, do you have to sell more merchandise stuff?
They don't limit the content that you sell at Gen Con. At some shows, like Dragon Con is famous.
Right.
They do because they specifically want the artists to be in the art show area there at that convention. But Gen Con has been kind of a gaming convention for so long Whereas Dragon Con is all kinds of different things. It's pop culture and all of that. Whereas Gen Con is much more focused, so they don't really worry about that. I mean, you buy the space and you can sell like anime fuzzy, costuming stuff and corsets.
The
like,
giant pillows, man. The giant pillows. Come on, you could say
actually
it.
Across from mine one year where they were selling like these, tails that were attached to little plugs, and I was like, "How did that? Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's a weird thing to see on an exhibit hall floor." But they basically are just like, yeah, whatever you think you can sell, if you can sell it and you can afford the space, then you're welcome.
I mean, that's to a degree that's cool. And then
yeah,
and
it's a good
some of
policy
those
overall, I think, because I mean, honestly, it's one of those situations where the crowd that comes to Gen Con is so focused that they're going to sort of weed out the stuff that doesn't belong on their own.
Right.
I mean, these are fans that are there for tabletop games and to some degree comics and video games, but honestly that stuff is sort of edged in over the years, but it never caught on the way it has with the big comic shows. Gen Con is just so focused that it's almost immune to that sort of takeover.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do a really good job of controlling what's in there. To a degree, they're kind of telling you what's like. Dragon Con is a mixed bag of everything. If you've ever walked the Dragon Con vendor floor, you'll find it's like, it's kind of cool because like you don't know what to expect every year when you're there. Origins is kind of like a mini Gen Con, so you kind of actually know what to expect when you show up. So.
Right, definitely.
Right,
and they've always sort of marketed it that way. I mean, Origins is built around the idea that they wanted to be a mini Gen Con, and they've become even more focused on the business side of it actually over the years too. A lot of the companies go there and they like retailers show up and do presentations from game companies and all of that, and it's sort of been more focused on tabletop even than it used to be years and years ago.
Yeah. And it's before Gen Con, so it's kind of nice because I remember when I first started going Origins, that's where like you get to play test a lot of games and try a lot of stuff out, and then by the time they got to Gen Con, you can tell they've kind of reworked everything that people told them was wrong at Origins to a degree.
And showing at Origins, usually, not having gone this year, but usually it's a little more relaxed and it's not as busy as Gen Con. So I've always found that to be the convention to actually network and interact a little bit more and have a little more time to actually chat with folks. Because I've made some of the best relationships at Origins.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like you're not like Gen Con's so busy, like, and just trying to hang out with your friends at the end of the show. It's like, you guys, what it's like, Jason. Every day we were like, who's in this group now? Where are we all going? And like,
oh yeah, that's one of the reasons me and Steve Argyle started our own little booth island is because we were like, well, we're trying to hang out at the end of every day anyway. This is way easier. If our booths are actually nearby, we can just sort of grab our stuff and hit the road rather than fighting through the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, I also this year, because this year was a little different too, right? Because it's like last year, but 2019, it was like I try to hang out with different groups of friends every night and catch up with everybody. But this year, I was like, I stuck with the same group. Like at Dragon Con, I stuck pretty much with you guys, with Argyles and Jason. And then at Gen Con, I pretty much did the same thing because I was like, you guys are vaccinated and you're safe. Like I didn't want to roll with some random, and then Brian obviously because he's my roommate. So we stuck in the same circle, so we knew we were all. It's fine, but it also kind of whatever. I had that feeling of like, well, this is cool hanging out with your friends. I really would have liked to hang out with everybody, but I was like, I don't know where the rest of you guys have been. If you feel the same way I do about being sick, like who you with, man? Yeah. Where were you last night? What were you doing?
Did they limit the amount of vendors the same way they limited the amount of artists?
They did. At Gen Con, it was hard to tell, honestly, because the floor was smaller. There were definitely a lot less vendors there, but I'm not sure whether it was just a matter of all the vendors.
A choice or a fact.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of vendors just rolled or bailed.
They don't roll it over to next year.
Yeah.
So they basically were just like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. So plenty of people were like, okay, we don't.
Right.
And then there were still a ton that after that, the cutoff date for that happened. And when Delta ramped up, a lot of companies, there were a ton that backed out after that, that probably lost their money and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of companies bailed, and then but I don't feel like the show told them they couldn't show up. I feel like the show wanted to fill the floor, but they definitely controlled.
I never saw an email that indicated that they were like, no, we only want a certain number, because that would be smart. I think they realized pretty early on in that situation that there were enough people that weren't coming anyway that they didn't actually have to worry about it. Dragon Con, though, was it felt like a completely full show. Like the art show was smaller, but the vendor hall was still full. As far as
you guys were getting
Alan, I think you mentioned that too, didn't you?
Yeah, Dragon Con
benefited from it a little bit.
I did. I benefited because I was in two spots.
Yeah, you got
and
an extra spot.
Yeah, and I feel so honestly, I feel very much like having the vendor spot in Dragon Con really, because the art show had the same feel. Like it wasn't that crowded. It was kind of, there were moments of crowds and then nothing for a while, which is typical for the art show. So the art show felt. Here's the thing, if I'm gonna talk about Dragon Con real quick, the Dragon Con art show has been around forever, but people still don't know it's down there.
Yeah,
really.
Like I literally met I met a person at the show this year who said, I've been coming to Dragon Con for 17 years and I didn't realize it was an art show. And I was like, do you not read signs? Because there's signs everywhere telling you we're here, right? But almost every Dragon Con I've done, I've met an individual who's like, I didn't know this was here, or someone new, because it's in a separate building. It's at the banquet hall of the Hyatt, right? So it's in the lower. They put us in the dungeons of the Hyatt.
Third level down. It is in the basement.
You're literally in the basement of the Hyatt, and but it's kind of like a cool little. If you find us, there's a ton of original art down there, and it's all amazing, right? Everybody down there is awesome.
Yeah.
But so that show, like, if I were to, I probably would have hit the same numbers I normally hit down there if I didn't have the vendor hall. But the vendor hall, had a decent. I got lucky, man. I got a really cool corner booth. And I had two amazing assistants, and they just owned it the whole time. Like, I didn't have to even stress if they were doing a bad job over there because they were that good. Like, and, I did great. Dragon Con was probably one of the best shows I've ever done to date, And then Gen Con fucking comes along and beats that number with only one booth, which is amazing for...
man.
And, again, I would love for that to happen again next year, but I feel like we're gonna
remains to be seen.
I feel like we'll come close to the numbers we're making right now. We just won't hit if we go over something awesome is happening, right? But I don't.
Well, there were about half the people that were ordinarily going to Gen Con that didn't go this year. So
that's true.
Maybe that half will be as excited next time.
And they show up with the rest of the money.
I think you're right. I think it'll be a little down, honestly.
I mean, I'm like basically
unique, weird experience. That's all.
Yeah. Yep. So like I'm basically I'm purposely not putting my expectations high. Like I went into Gen Con with like this, like, let's make this number, which is pretty low. In my head, I was like, let's just make this much and you'll be fine. And I surpassed it. And I was just like,
$200.
Yeah. $200 is all I need, guys. Really I just need to buy groceries at the end of the day. I just need $200 so I can go drink with Jason at the end of every show.
Nice.
Because he is expensive.
It'll cost more than $200. Yeah, I get where you're going. Yeah.
But Origins, since you guys didn't come to Origins, but Origins was not as busy as Gen Con. I could tell that it's a great show. It was still a fun show. I still had a good time. I networked really well. I think the win I took away from that wasn't even the monetary stuff because I did okay. I made profit, but I definitely networked my ass off and made a bunch of connections. Brian knows about some of these because I've been talking about it. But I was able to nail a distributor finally, so I've got a person just taking all my product out the door for me without even. I just send it to him and he takes care of it. And I'm like, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
I talked to a game developer about potentially designing a board game for Ancient Ones, and then I talked to another. Actually, her, Julie Ahern, wants to work on the RPG with me. So,
nice.
She was very insistent that I was. I haven't hired her to write stuff yet, and she doesn't know why. And I was like, "You're a very busy lady, But she's like, "I'll put aside time for you, man. Let's go." So I was like, "Cool." So I feel like I still had some wins there, but the show itself, they lost so many vendors this year who decided not to go. They merged with another show called GDEX, who I couldn't remember who this person was initially, but the president or the owner of that show came by to talk to me, and I remembered him from way back in the day, like I would say 4 years ago or something. I did Indiana PopCon, and he had stopped at my booth saying he's going to start a convention that's mainly focused on video games, and he'd like me to attend it, and I never did because I got busy, I had a kid and life, right? But he came by to talk to me, and I was just like, holy shit, I remember you. And he was like, yeah. So his show was merged within. So I think, here's the thing, and this is just a personal opinion, but I don't think it's a good idea to merge a video game show with a board game show, because I felt a little bit like people love both, but people stayed on the video game side a lot to play those games and didn't quite come over to because you gotta go through the board games, and then they gotta get to the artists who are like, we're in the fucking back at that show. Yeah. So the one thing I did, I guess I complained about it, but I talked to the organizers and I said, hey, how hard is it to get a banner above us that just says art show? I mean, it does. I said it doesn't have to be like the Gen Con one that's rotating or anything. It doesn't have to be that cool, like. Yeah,
I know. Just a little bit of pyrotechnics.
Just anything. Yeah, shoot off a bottle rocket. I'll fire off a flare every X, but just something that's.
Bring my own. Yeah.
Just something that says, for example, like I was talking about, you guys were talking earlier, I was the artist guest of honor, but the other thing I talked to this guy about was like, nobody knew I was the artist guest of honor. Like, I did great because people remembered me and came to my booth still, but I was like, there were 3 guests of honor there. There's a cosplayer, there's an artist, and there's a writer, and nobody knew that they existed because they didn't.
Use it to leverage yourself as an artist guest of honor into other shows where they pay your expenses.
I wasn't go ahead.
I mean, if I know you should have gotten more out of it, but at least maybe you can look at it that way to try and get.
I mean, a win's a win, right? It's still a win. Like when I talked to the organizers, I said, "Look, man, I'm not expecting you to put me on a throne and carry me around, but for future reference,
that's on the table."
Yeah, I mean, if you got a bunch of Ewoks sitting around that want to haul me around, I'm all game for that. I'll climb the fuck right up there, But I said just for future reference, you even if you don't promote the guests of honor, just promote the artists, because there's I think there was about a dozen of us back there, and multiple people were like, I didn't realize there were artists back here, and we were in the back. We're in the back, so you got to
doing it correctly.
Yeah, you gotta get or put us in the middle or somewhere where people have to see us. Right, is my point. But all in all, that show is usually, I still had a good time. It's a fun show. Everybody there who runs it is super nice, right? Like nobody in there is an ass to you. Even when I was telling them this stuff, they were like, "Oh, let's see what we can do for next year. Let's talk about it." They were super chill, so I'm like, "Cool." And at the end of the day, like I said, I nailed a couple gigs. It sucked that you guys didn't show up. I only had really like 4 friends there. So
after the COVID scare with Gen Con, I just my family couldn't take it.
Yeah, that scared a lot of people into not showing up to the next one because I think it was too close. A lot of us were too close to that, and everyone on this call was too close to that. Except
and that me taking the test, and like the place I went to in my small town. The thing said I'd find out Wednesday or Thursday of the week of the show when I would be driving Wednesday up to Ohio. So positive. Yeah. Right. So then I've driven 10 hours and all that. So that's why I backed out originally. And then my sister said, hey, look up this center and see if there's one near you, because they do it same day. And then like 2 days later I went and did it, but I'd already canceled by that point. So
you did.
There was no going back.
Because Brian was literally messaging me like, I'm just going to cancel. I'm like, all right, well, in my head, I was like, I'm not going to talk this dude out of it because that would make me an asshole, right? I'm just going to go and do my own thing. But I still have Andrew Thompson, who we all know lives there. So I hung out with Andrew and another friend of ours, Corey, lives there. So I was able to catch up with some old friends still. But, and then I had, Steven was there too, Najarian, so I hung out with him, but that's it. I didn't know anybody else there. So, Julie and stuff one night I got together, but after that I was just there was nights where I was just now what do I do? I guess I'll go back to my room and do some homework, Yeah. which is basically what I did. But
Alan, you have 3 more shows left, right? For the
2.
year?
I have a LuxCon and
2 more shows.
C2E2 in December, which a LuxCon, it's more of a networking show. I feel like it's just going to be chill. We're all just going to hang out. And I'm trying to bring some traditional stuff to it, but I haven't had time to finish. I started painting stuff, and then I was just like, you got to make time for that,
right.
And I can't rush it. So, and C2E2, dude, I'm feeling real about Repop shows right now. So we'll see. Like, some of our friends are at New York Comic Con right now, and they said the show is slow as hell.
Really? Yes.
Yeah.
I have.
Like some people haven't even broke $1,000. So yesterday was the first day, and a couple people broke 1,000, and then today, which is Friday, which you'd think would be a little busier, some people said they haven't made $1,000 today. So.
Oh wow.
Which is
hard. I had a friend ask me about it because he lives in the Bronx and he usually does NYCC, but he decided to skip this year because he has a daughter and his wife, her work has had a few COVID scares. So he's kind of like, I'm not going to risk it. I've been working from home so far.
Yeah.
No reason for me to go out to do it. But he wanted me to ask if I knew of anyone that was doing New York Comic Con to see what the numbers were like.
So
that's interesting to know.
I'm just talking to there's a Discord server a bunch of artists are in, and they're all discussing things, and it's the bulk of it's just slow. I mean, tomorrow might be busier because it's Saturday.
Yeah,
like New York maybe likes to party on a Friday. I don't know.
So my sister just went to New York last weekend just to get away with my nephew, and she said that it was like empty. They went to a ton of museums and there was just nobody anywhere because everywhere you go into, you have to prove that you have a proof of vaccination, like every place you go into, or show that you've been tested in the past 24 hours. And so it could just be that New York is just not New York right now,
Yeah,
they're probably just locking it down, which is
probably smart.
Yeah,
that actually doesn't sound terrible. I mean, usually New York is a lot of fun except for all the people everywhere, right?
I mean, that's what I'm so with C2E2 in December. That's why I'm like, it's first off, it's in the dead of winter in Chicago. It's in December in Chicago, which is like, even I don't want to go outside in that weather.
No, not do anything that time of year in Chicago.
So like, you're asking me to actually go set up and then work a 3-day show. So we'll see. I feel like that was why it's important that these first 3 shows were as good as they were for me, because like a LuxCon, like I said, I usually don't make a lot of money at LuxCon. It's more like a lot of the art directors I talk to now, a lot of the big name artists that I'm friends with now is because I went to LuxCon, and I face to face with.
It's the best networking show.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Gen Con has quantity.
Yeah.
But IllexCon has quality, man.
Yeah, that's true.
It's got all the big name artists that don't want to go and do an actual show where they have to work.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest, most talented people in the business because, they've been at it for 40 years and they're just tired of doing all the bullshit and they want to go and have fun and have a few drinks and maybe sell a couple of paintings to some collectors. And that's what IllexCon does. That's all it does.
It is all it does.
It does it pretty well.
I mean, I met John Harris at a LuxCon. I didn't think I'd ever meet that dude in my entire life. Like, because he lives in like the UK. I was like, when am I ever gonna meet this guy that I love and I like? He's one of my inspirations for a lot of the work I do. And there he was, and I was like, well, I'm gonna talk. I got a portfolio review from him because I was like, I'm just gonna ask, like.
Nice.
And I
He's
think that
behind the table, he'll probably do it. Like.
I mean, I literally talked to him, and he came by my table actually at the showcase, and I was just like, "Holy crap, you're John Harris!" Like,
oh wow.
And then I was like, "What are the chances I can come by tomorrow and get a portfolio review?" And he was like, "Yeah, come by." And he was like, I feel like I've said this before. I feel like if he had studied digital art, he would have just done all the stuff digitally. Because he was like, "This is all digital." I'm like, "It's all digital." He's like, "Wow." He's probably like thinking of all the oil paintings he's done, and how much faster it would have been for him. Or I mean, that's how I met Rick Barry too, right? Tawny actually has a great photo of me talking to Rick Barry. I'm just standing there like this. Because I'm in shock because Rick Barry came by my table and was like, he literally said, "You're a thrill pill of an artist," which is fucking Rick Barry, and I was just like, holy crap. And he gave me a great portfolio review. So, and then, now we're all friends. But, they're just regular people, but you idolize them. So you're always like, they don't want to talk to me. Why the fuck do they want to waste time?
Yeah.
And, at San Diego.
I felt that way about like James Gurney. Then I ran into him at
Spectrum.
Spectrum.
Yeah.
And coolest fucking dude ever.
He's super
Exactly
chill.
what you figure. Yeah.
You expect him to like just talk about colors all day or something, and he's just talking about regular ass shit to you. You know, like none of these guys ever want to really talk art either. Like, you know, unless you ask them a lot of art questions, they're just gonna talk about regular stuff. You know, we went to dinner with Rick, and so Sean and I work San Diego Comic-Con. We work at the Lemons booth, and Rick was staying with them, so he came to dinner with us, and he was just talking about all sorts of wild, like 80s, 90s stuff, like in the movie industry. Because you know that dude worked on like Johnny Mnemonic. Did you know that?
I did not.
Do you guys know the movie Johnny Mnemonic?
He didn't write it, did he?
No, he didn't write it. That's William Gibson.
But,
it's an amazing. Okay, the script was whatever. The short story is really amazing. If you never read it.
I understand it was based off of Gibson.
Okay. No, Rick did a lot of the concept work for it, right? So he did. You know, but he was like, so those are kind of cool stories that you get out of that interaction, right? And there was another movie he was telling. He hung out with Eli and me at LuxCon. He kept trying to get Eli and me to work on something together because he's like, if you guys just had an art baby together, I bet you it'd be really amazing. And we were like, that's a weird way to say it, man. You know, like
you could say collaborate, and it wouldn't be nearly this uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it put us off from working together ever. You know, we were both just like, nah, that's not.
You don't want to have an art baby with Eli.
Yeah,
go on a few dates, see if you can work it out.
I'm trying to think. Do we have? So we had a question, and I guess Brian or Jason can answer this first, but what do you enjoy the most about the cons besides the convention itself? Because you're obviously there to work. That's just That's just something that has to happen.
Yeah. You ever like try and find something to do within the city, or just hang out? I guess like hang out with friends and all that.
Most of the time for me, it's usually networking after the show that I'm trying to do to try and keep, because I live in a bubble most of my time. My head's usually down working on stuff, and I'm just working. So at the shows, that's when I'm actually interacting. I don't like interacting online. I'm terrible at it. So actually being face to face with people and getting to talk and share enthusiasm about different things that's the part that I find the most enjoyable.
Understandable.
Yeah, definitely. That is 100% it. I mean, honestly, I'm a commission artist primarily, and a show artist as I mean, it's not even probably a secondary goal in my career, really. Shows for me for most of my career have been more marketing than they have been about, the profit, the
income. Right.
So, I mean, for me, the goal was getting my work more visibility, but also hanging out with my friends, honestly, more than anything else. Because, like, the internet is great for that stuff now, but it's still not quite the same. And it also wasn't always there. I started in the late 90s, early 2000s. So back then it was like, yes, the internet existed, but it was still technically a little weird and creepy.
It's all like
AOL Instant Messenger. That's how I used to keep in touch with my friends.
I mean, there's plenty of options there, but there's no way to meet new people and hang out with other artists in the business that you're in. So for me, that was the primary goal, and honestly, it still is. It's just the amount of business that you can also do while you're there having fun has gone up dramatically over time as well. The attendance numbers for these shows have increased exponentially in the last 20 years. And the people that are attending the shows are much more savvy in terms of what kind of products they're expecting to purchase. For a long time, they'd show up to Gen Con and they'd be like, what comic book characters do you draw?
Right.
Why are you here, kid? Like, get your dad to take you somewhere where you want to be, because this is not your place. But now it's like, guys that are in their 40s and 50s and they grew up playing D&D and they've got,
money,
income that they can spend on brand new board games or cool art prints. I mean, it's just a totally different market than it used to be. So it's a lot easier to do business while you're there to have fun.
I mean, Gen Con was the first time I realized, like, I never realized that there were so many different board games out there. Because, my friends and I grew up playing, like, you know, who makes fucking Monopoly? Milton Bradley, right?
Right.
Like Monopoly, like so. My first taste of a different kind of game was Hero Quest. If you remember Hero Quest, like I forget who gifted it to me. Someone gave me it as a birthday gift, and I remember thinking, well, this is different because I'm used to playing all these weird Milton Bradley games that we have around the house.
They're a cool person to gift you that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was one of my cousins because they're cool like that. It definitely was not my parents because they didn't like D&D. That's another story.
Oh,
but,
Hero Quest is basically board game D&D. So
but we're not going to tell them that, guys. All right, they didn't know. Like my parents had the same thing with D&D that most parents did when it first came out. They thought it was like satanic and all that bullshit because somebody else had dropped that information in their head, right?
Because it is.
I mean, I conjure spirits all day and I fight demons for a living. What do you guys want, man?
I
need those books to help
me. My relationship with the devil has never been tighter than it is today.
I mean,
exactly.
Let me put it this way. Lucifer likes playing D&D. Jesus likes sports. And you know that for a fact because people are constantly thanking Jesus for their sports wins. And Jesus is just sitting there going, you're welcome, buddy.
I want to thank God.
God's like the last person to get thanked, right? They're like, I want to thank Jesus for that dunk I made.
Hell, man. I had nothing
God's absolutely a PC gamer. He's just like looking up from his desk and be like, "What? Why the fuck are you thanking me? I don't play sports."
He's like, "Don't let me see you on a console, boy." That's why Lucifer's in hell. That just went a whole different direction. But no, what I was gonna say really quick was, because then for a number of years, like I realized board games exist, but I just didn't get a taste of all the different like companies until I went to my first time at Gen Con was working a booth at Gen Con, not even my own booth. And I remember walking around that show with Eli, that's where Eli and I became really good friends. And like my mind was just blown because I was just like, holy shit, who are all these fucking companies? And then, I made it a point to go talk to Barbara because I didn't even realize there was an art show there, right? Like none of this stuff existed in my world at the time. It was just, I was doing Comic Cons mainly. Like I was doing fan art at the time. And I talked to Barbara, and she's like, there's an art show. You can apply for it. And she's really cool. She, like, followed up with me, made sure I applied. And I was in the show. I won a jury, and I got in next year. And then I realized I could trade art for those games. And now I've got a garage full of games, basically.
And you play all of them.
Right? Yeah, I try to play them all once a week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. As soon as this call's over, I'm going to be playing a new board game that just showed up.
God, I got someone give someone. Which game are you playing?
Dragon Prince Battle Charged. My son and I play tested it before it came out, and so he's real excited. It's the first board game where his name's in the playtester credits, and it showed up. It showed up on awesome. Wednesday. Yeah,
very exciting.
Yeah, we started playing right before this call, so we had to stop like 2 turns in.
Oh no! So it's my fault that he's just sitting there seething right now.
Yeah. Soon there's going to be a knock on my office door.
I have about 15 more minutes. All right, great. So now your wife has a problem with me. Your son has a problem with me. Ruby's still cool with me.
She's on the fence.
She's on the fence? Oh, no. Let me get Violet in here real quick.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of cool to know that you can, as an artist, that you can... Because here's the thing, look, those vendors love... So I realized that they love artists, right? Like, and then they hire artists to do the covers and all that. And it's just like a cool little like family hanging out all the time. And I don't know, it's kind of nice. And what you were saying before, Jason, about like people, I don't think people realize that when the artists all get together, it's like we have our own like tight family too, right? So it's kind of nice for us to all be in the same room versus like this phone call. It's nice to be able to talk to you guys on a video call, but it's a completely different feeling, just like chilling outside and having a drink with your art friends, right? Like
being able to unwind. Yeah,
and you're kind of like hang out with somewhat like minds, right? Like everybody has their own thought process and all that, but we're all kind of artists and we all love. Gen Con is an example. We're all artists and we all love board games. So like, we're kind of all like talking about the same stuff and just nothing wild. I don't know. It's a weird way I can't even describe it. The LuxCon is the same way. Like it's a cool feeling being there with all your art friends. And then there's that week we're all depressed when we get home. Because you don't know when you're going to see each other again. Right. So it's like, it's not like we're graduating. We're all hugging each other. Like, see you later, man. But there's a weird lull for about a week or two where you're sad. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you go into work every day and people tell you how amazing your art is, and you get all this social contact, which you don't usually get working on art all day, you know, in your office.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this really concentrated, you know, ego bomb that is also combined with money. And then at the end of every day, you know, you go relax with your buddies and everything. I mean, it's this really weird combination of experiences that are all concentrated into just a few days, and then when all that stuff is over, you go back to your regular life and everything else just sort of seems boring by comparison.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean,
nobody is singing my praises at this house, I'll tell you that right now.
I was gonna say it's the epitome of, I'm sure you guys have seen that meme that's floated around the internet within like the past week or whatever. That's the epitome of it, where it's like, you don't understand the thing about artists. Someone told us when we were like 3 years old that our art is really good, and we've been chasing that high ever since.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much, right? We're all like, we're so good, let's keep going. And, you know, I had a bunch of people at Origins who said the same, you know, walk by and be like, oh, this is amazing, I love your... And one guy was like, I'm sure you've heard that all day. And I'm like, you don't want to be like, yeah, man, all day. But it's also like...
God, it's terrible.
It's horrible. Stop saying that to me.
Yeah.
It's actually really nice to hear.
I've heard it 3,000 times today, so I could definitely hear it again. So, I mean,
just keep it coming, man.
It's not a problem.
It's not a problem. I love it. I'll soak it all up, you know, like, because like you just said, you come back here and it's like, it's just quiet. Yeah. Like, there's the occasional good job, you made dinner.
Right.
And, you know, whatever. So, you know, I had another question. Let's see.
Well, here's a question. It's October. You guys watching anything spooky, or is that not really your bag?
All my spooky stuff is for a younger audience at the moment, because my kids are all into the Halloween. We just watched the new Muppets Haunted Mansion that released on Disney Plus today.
Oh, so, that's out today?
Yep, today.
That sounds scary, actually.
And
it's never scary.
Well, I see what you mean. But it was all right. We love Muppet stuff, so.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I totally had no idea that it was coming out today. I thought that was later this month.
Yeah, so
they've got a lot.
I read a review on it earlier though, and it's supposed to be pretty good. You know, I mean, Muppets movies are, you know, they're a very specific kind of film. You know, you kind of know what you're getting. But this one definitely sounds like it was trying to do things that are very within the range of what the Muppets should be doing. And so it's I'll check it out definitely. I've been watching Midnight Mass, which is a weird.
Oh yeah,
show.
What is it called? Did you say Midnight Mass?
Slow, but then it speeds up about halfway through, and it's like, oh wow, this is really messed up. But
what is it called?
It sounds like every other Mike Flanagan work that he's done.
Every single show that he's done is the same sort of pacing to it, where you're like, why am I even watching this? This is the most boring thing I've ever done with my time on this planet, and I'm going to die at some point.
And then it turns, and you're like, holy shit.
And then you get halfway through, and you're like, wow, this is insane. What the hell is wrong?
Oh,
with
Midnight
this
Mass. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Alan.
No, it's fine. Tawny just wrote it down. I was trying to figure out what you said, because what I do in October is I usually have a list of like horror movies that I want to watch. Like, I used to be able to watch them every day. I used to watch one movie a day, but you know those days are long gone.
Yeah, it's so hard with the 2-year-olds.
Yeah, like I don't have that kind of time. I mean, I do, but I've been doing nothing else with my time. So I've been trying to. So in our Rusty Skillet crew, there's a artist, Brianna. Her husband made this amazing spreadsheet of horror movies for us that is private, but I can probably share with you two guys if you're interested. But he put all the movies on a list, separated by genres, and then he actually made these little footnotes because he goes through and watches them.
What kind it was, or certain things about it. Yeah.
Like things you may or may not like about it. And I'm just like, this is amazing. So I've been kind of going through that and watching stuff.
Oh man, I've got a few to throw on that pile that I actually need to add on to the list.
Add to it. But then I've been watching the classics, right? I've already watched Nightmare on Elm Street 1. I watched Halloween.
I just finished watching Halloween today. Yeah,
that movie is still scary. I actually watched that movie in my hotel room. That's what I did one night because I had nobody want to hang out at Origins. So I was like, I guess I'm watching Halloween. Here it is.
That soundtrack is still so good. But Donald Pleasance is kind of bad psychiatrist.
Yeah, he's not a good psychiatrist, you know. He's just like,
He's
I'm gonna try to.
like, he's like, no, my patient's like evil. We have to fucking kill him. It's like, Jesus Christ, what kind of doctor are you?
I mean, if your
It was a
patient's
different
running around
time back
stabbing,
then.
he's the kind that carries a revolver, dude. Clearly.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street is still scary. It's, you know, like I remember watching that movie when I was like, I don't know, 8, and that movie scared me because it was a movie my dad told me not to watch, right? And I snuck out of the house and watched it with some friends, and that movie scared me because I'm like, this dude can kill you in your sleep, and then he's gonna be hunting you while you're awake too. He's just waiting for you to pass out because eventually you're gonna get tired, right? There's no way around it.
I got a head start on that. Like in September, I started watching Nightmare on Elm Street stuff because, like, I finished around the third one, Dream Warriors, and then
That's the best one.
Watched the others. Yeah, it is the best one. It's the most inventive. I love it.
Have you seen apparently there's a reboot, and I didn't know about this till
it's not good.
Oh, okay, great.
It's not good.
I'll just take it off the list.
It's the same. I feel like it's in the same way as the that Michael Bay Friday the 13th movie.
They redid Friday the 13th?
Yeah, Michael Bay did a remake of it.
Wait, Michael Bay, the guy who blows everything up?
Yes, the one and the same.
I don't.
Okay.
All right.
And it's actually like, okay, the Friday the 13th one, the remake basically rounds out the shitty trilogy of like bad remake horror movies because like there's also the Rob Zombie Halloween, which I think is terrible.
Yeah.
So that one was a little too violent.
Yeah, so that's
for a violent
like,
movie.
All three of them basically like weirdly miss
Yeah.
the right flavor that the original movies or series had.
Yes.
Like Friday the 13th kind of sucks out, which is crazy. It's like, it's Michael Bay. You'd figure like, okay, he could maybe shoot something interesting. No, it's all very like ho-hum kills, like especially for like Jason Voorhees, where it's like you really want to, you're kind of there to be like, the plot's not great. You're really there just to see a person do something crazy in terms of the kills, like impale someone on a fountain and then have the blood be like the water coming out of the fountain or something like that. Or watch someone like have their head get taken clean off or something. And instead of the Michael Bay one, it's like, they just got stabbed. Oh,
he's having an off day. He was probably sad because they didn't let him blow anything up, man. That dude likes to blow things up in his movies.
I have a feeling it might just be because
like slow motion rotating camera shots and and car chases. He's lost, man.
He's like, I don't know what to do. I wonder if that was just like a weird thing. They walked in one day and they were like, we need a director, and Michael's just sitting there eating a donut or something. Like, hey, you want to direct this real quick? And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's see where this goes.
I wonder.
Who the hell
I wonder. I think it might be the only horror movie of his that he's ever directed, and
that's probably because nobody wants to hire him for that after that. You said Rob Zombie. I actually liked his original movies that he did with the crazy family. That like I forget what they're called now.
The Devil's Rejects.
The Devil's Rejects. Yeah, there's one where the people get caught and they're like trapped in the house, and I was like, it had a very very spooky feel to it, right? Like you would not want to be in that situation where you're like prisoners. Mm-hmm. On the other spectrum, I don't watch anything I hated watching movies like Saw or Hostel, those gore movies. I'm just like, no.
So the Saw thing, right? Have any of you seen Malignant that just came out recently?
Not yet.
On HBO.
Nope.
Okay, so I really can't say anything about it without it being like a massive spoiler. But it's a new horror movie by James Wan, who did Saw and Paranormal Activity and Aquaman, which I hate that movie. But yeah, no, it's a James Wan horror movie. It is a movie that for like 80 minutes, it's pretty boring. And then the last 10 minutes, it ramps to 11 and it stays at 11 for that remainder of the 10 minutes. You're like, worth the price of admission for just that alone.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
For the last 10 minutes?
Now, do
Alan,
you have to watch the rest of it in order to appreciate?
Can I watch the last 10 minutes of it?
Fast forward.
You know what I would say is like you watch up until like the first kill of it, and then after that you can kind of just fast forward through most of it, and then once the movie turns on the protagonist and they're like, oh, the protagonist is the killer or whatever, tune back in at that point.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Sure, I'll add it to the list.
But this is a thing I have with James Wan, like with his horror movies. That he's very boring for the most part, but then he does like something crazy at the end, which is like out of nowhere. You're like, what the fuck is this? He did this one movie that the name escapes me, but he did this one movie where this guy finds out that his dad for most of his life was a ventriloquist dummy, that his mom was puppeteering.
What? Okay. How do you not know that your dad is a dummy?
That's why it's like the puppet was so lifelike or whatever, and like,
come on.
This is the thing. It's like you see the twist. You're like, holy shit, what does this even mean? Because like they're doing like flashbacks, and you realize like, oh, there's strings or whatever that's like controlling the dad that are just out of frame, and you're kind of like, wait, how did you never notice this as a child?
Because he's crazy. Is he the killer?
That's
right. No, this is the thing. Like, this is the same thing with the Malignant movie. Like, most of the movie is incredibly boring, and the last minute, James Wan goes, "Oh, by the way, dad was a dummy the whole time." Boom, and you're like, "Wait."
He's like the M. Night Shyamalan of horror movies.
Well, think about it. Like with the Saw movie, the Saw movie is the exact same way. The Saw movie is an incredibly boring movie, for the most part. Yeah. And then the last minute, you realize, like, oh, it was the guy. It was the coma patient all along. He was the jigsaw killer. And you're like, wait, holy shit! I had no idea it was that. That's insane. Yeah, that's his bread and butter. I'm pretty sure if he was able to, he would have done it in Aquaman. Instead, he spread out the crazy throughout the whole of that movie.
Yeah, I watched Aquaman.
He had a lot of CGI money to spread around. I mean,
This was one. Malignant. The other thing I'll give it to is like, and this won't make any sense until you actually see it, but I'll give mad props to the stunt actors, because the stunt work they did in it was pretty impressive for what they had to do for it.
Stunt work for Malignant?
Yeah.
All right.
Can't really say much more beyond that.
Yeah, I'll add it to the list. I'll look it up. The other things I've been watching are like I said, Hellraiser. I watched Alien. I always have I watched Alien back in last year, high as a kite, and it was scary as hell. And in my head, I was like, I'm gonna do that again, and it's fucking scary if you watch it high, man. I'm telling you.
All right.
You just don't know where
I've not tried that, but I will.
Definitely don't watch Hellraiser high, because that's gonna.
Oh God, no.
That's gonna.
Did you hear they're doing a remake of that now?
Yeah, they cast a female lead as Pinhead. Some people are happy about it. Other people are losing their minds. Welcome to fanboys.
Usual thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, shut up, man. You know, like, what do you care? Don't go watch it.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's what I do now for October. I'm gonna try to get through a couple of these movies. Apparently, I'm gonna watch the last 10 minutes of Malignant. That'll be a quick one to bank out.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed. It leaves HBO does this, the weird thing with all their new titles now, where it's like it streams as long as the movie's in theaters, and then it disappears for like a month, and then it comes back onto their streaming service. So I think HBO, Malignant leaves like October 10th to make way. So
you're telling me I got 2 days to like bank this thing out?
You do.
Great. All right. Well, we're approaching an hour.
Watch like the first 10 minutes, and then watch the last 10 minutes. Okay. The middle is incredibly boring.
That seems like the kind of commitment I'm comfortable with.
I mean, like, here's the other thing. Like, so I'll say this real quick. It's like, I've been trying to find. They don't really make horror movies the way they used to when I was younger. They're just kind of all like really fast kills and like whatever supernatural stuff. So I've been trying to find some good ones to watch, and there's a couple like. So if you guys haven't seen Trick or Treat, that's an indie flick. It's really
cool. That's a really good one.
There's like 5 independent stories in there that are all part of a one larger story. The Conjuring, which I suggested to our friend Shanna, who she has not finished it yet because she said it's super scary, and it is fucking scary. Anything in that series, it's about a husband and wife duo, that real life husband and wife duo that they dealt with the Amityville horror, I think.
They did.
Yeah. So like Annabelle, I would suggest don't watch if you got a lot of dolls around the house like my kid does, because like I went down the basement after watching that. Also, I was all these eyes staring at me, and I was like, "Fuck this shit." Going back, I don't need to play video games that bad tonight. But anything in that series is done really well. Like they took the time to put in the perfect jump scares. and write decent plots, I would say. So we'll see. I think it's almost time for dinner. So, but we got about 5 minutes left. So I didn't really have any other questions other than another convention question for you guys, which was I think we've kind of answered. It was how you've been feeling about the con this year, with everything still being a little weird with the pandemic and all that.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anything you guys want to add.
I mean, wearing masks everywhere was definitely not normal.
Yeah.
But with all the people everywhere, I think it was definitely a good thing to see so many people wearing masks, even though I know a lot of them probably were, vaccinated if they were going to a comic convention or a game convention. I mean, it does seem kind of silly not to be. And it was nice actually to see so many people that were happy to do it without having to be like, there was only like at Dragon Con, there was one guy that was wearing a mask that was specifically like it had some vulgar statement on it, and he was wearing it under his nose, and you saw only really just a few of those guys walking around overall. I was pretty impressed.
There were about 6, I think I counted 6 people that got thrown out of the art show for just refusing to wear masks. It's like, cool.
Oh, wow.
Bye. Well, I mean, most of them just were like, the 5 of them are just like, whatever, I don't want to be down here anyway, and they just left, right? Because they're like, you have to wear a mask down here. But one dude refused to wear a mask, went past my booth, because I was the first booth, so I'd be like, hey man, you got to wear a mask down here. And he was just like, nah, and he just kept walking, and then 3 booths down, one of the people working the show was watching the booth, and she said, sir, there's a mask policy here, and he literally said, like, I have my freedoms, and I was like, okay. I was like, I don't even know how to touch that, so I went and ran and got this worker there named Jeremy, and I said, hey man, 2 of us have told that dude to wear a mask, and he's refusing to do it. And so they went and talked to him. He's just refused. And then they had security walking around down there, right? They had cops in the vendor hall. They had cops in the art show. So the 2 cops walked over to him and were just like, let's go, man. Like, we're either going to arrest you because you're being stupid, or we're just going to walk you out of here. Like, if you're going to cause a scene, we're going to arrest you. And he literally was like, he got on his cell phone like he was like fake calling his friend or something. Like, yeah, they're throwing me out. And I'm just like, fuck out of here.
All right.
Man.
Yeah.
And they said they were going to ban him. I'm like, you just got a lifetime ban because you couldn't wear a mask for like,
was it worth it? Yeah.
20 minutes?
Yeah. I hope you feel free.
It's the same way I feel about the people who get bounced off airplanes. I'm just like, dude, you can't fly anywhere. You're on a no-fly list now. Like, I don't know if you can ever get off of those with good behavior or whatever, but I'm like, you can't go on vacation anywhere. Like, you have to drive everywhere.
I think you can get off it, but it's the lengthy appeals process.
Yeah, like I was like, you never get to leave the country now. Like, you're stuck in fucking Georgia or wherever the fuck you live. Like, sorry, Brian.
That's where they want to be.
Whenever I hear stuff like that, I'm like, man, that's like the Dave Chappelle skit, like the old skit of like when keeping it real goes wrong.
Yes, it's just like. So, like, it's nice, like Jason was saying, it's nice to see people who are just not arguing. They were just like, oh, you want me to wear a mask? No problems. And at Dragon Con, a lot of people I saw showed up and were like, oh, I don't have, I forgot my vaccination card, or I didn't get vaccinated. And they were like, here's a station over there. Just go sit down and get tested. It takes 15 minutes. And people were compliant. They got tested. They had a card, and then they just walked the floor. And I was like, it felt a little safer and nice, So
that's good.
Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping that it's like that everywhere, but I did hear in New York, there's a couple people walking around with no masks on. So you're going to get that at every show, I think, though.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to really avoid it overall. There's always going to be a couple assholes when you get, 50,000 people in one place.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. But I mean, I guess at this point, the real hope is that by this time next year, we don't actually have to worry about everybody being masked and all that stuff anymore.
It'll be great. And that is the one thing, like I had to like shave this. I had to shave my beard down, man. I couldn't wear the mask over.
Wasn't it nice not having to like groom or anything? Like at a show, like
I shaved it down real short. I was like, this is great.
Show up in the morning, you're like, half my face is covered. It's fine. It doesn't matter.
I mean, it will be nice when we don't have to wear masks. I get it, but it's really not that bad. It's not as bad as people make it feel. So
it's really not a big deal.
Yeah, it's really not. But people want to fucking wild about it. So whatever.
Yeah.
that's it. I don't know what else to say about it. So,
All right.
But we're at an hour, so unless you guys have some amazing knowledge you want to drop about the shows, I mean, I'm looking forward to these shows going back to their regular schedule next year, which is probably something I could say. Like, I like Origins being in June, and then Gen Con, and then Dragon Con.
Yeah, because you're having to deal with everything like slammed within like 2 months.
Dude, I literally did I did Dragon Con. I had 5 days home. Then I did Gen Con. I had 5 days home at Origins, and I have 2 weeks. And then I'm in LuxCon.
Gen Con's back to its normal slot next year, I believe.
Thank God.
Announced it already,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to everything being back. Because then it just feels better to have that. Because we need that break in between recharge, man. I was exhausted by the time I got Origins. Like, I was just running on fumes. I set up. I had an assistant who was super chill and helped me out with stuff. But there's a moment where I just want to go back to my room and sleep. Like, I'm tired, you know? And people are like, how you doing it? I don't know. You do it. So,
but it was good just to be doing them again. Honestly, I think that was really the key to it all. Was it was all worth doing after so long without doing them. Yeah, I was wondering how it was going to feel again. But I think in the end it turned out to be a really good thing.
I mean, I think I felt great within the first 2 hours of Dragon Con, right? Like, there's a minute where I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and then I set up, and like I said, my assistants were great. Like, they set up the vendor hall, and then Justin came over and helped me set up the art show. And then the first hour or so, I was like, I don't have the group. It took me a minute to even get to my regular way I act and talk at the show, right? Like, I have a specific way I talk to people when they come over and tell them about the series and all that. And none of that came to me for an hour or two. I was just like, I don't fucking remember what I said. I had to pick up my book and read the back of it to be like, I don't remember the elevator pitch. I forgot my own elevator pitch that I wrote, right? So
in most years, you've got all these sales pitches kind of already queued up.
Yep.
But I had to relearn the old product and come up with new stuff for the new product. And it was weird. It really was. I didn't expect that, because you've been doing this stuff for so long that it's all of it's just on automatic every time. And this was the first time in 15 years where I was like, oh, what do I say?
Right.
I did the art myself, and it's cool.
Yeah.
Buy some.
It's hey, let's go. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else. Yeah, exactly. And that took a couple hours, but then I was back. By day 2, I was like, I'm back. I knew what I was pumped. I was like, let's go, let's do this, right? And I feel like every one of us had really good numbers day 1 of each of these shows. Like Gen Con, I heard that Thursday was the best Thursday for a lot of people. Out of any show they've done. So it's just that says a lot, Okay, well, we're a little over an hour now, which is not a big deal. Cool. Thanks for taking the time.
I've got to go play a board game.
Yeah, tell Wyatt not to kill me. I'll send you, Brian, do you have a Big Book of Madness?
No.
Look at your collection, let me know. I might have an extra copy I can send you.
Right on.
Cool. But yeah, thanks for being on. I know it's Friday night. You guys probably have better things to do. But
thanks for having us.
Definitely. Thanks, Jason.
Good seeing you guys.
Yeah, I'll send you guys.